earlier this morning, I shared with you that on our little evaluation form, we're always looking for new speakers and looking for new information to bring to the stage to you. Well, as you know, we're probably always on the lookout as well. And one day, Renee got a call from Lizzie and said, I found the next speaker. And Renee said, okay, tell me a little bit more about it. Where are you? And she said, I'm at the farmer's market. Isn't that where you would think of finding our next speaker for International Seminar? So we're excited to have Chef Nathan with us. He has years and years of experience. In 2012, he wrote his first cookbook, which I have up here, and he's going to be autographing over in the expo after his presentation. He is not only a master at his craft, but for those of you that know me and know that maybe in my next life, that will be where I will be moving towards, I'm so excited to be learning from one of the best here up on stage. We all know that we can treat our ailments with medication, we can change our exercise behaviors, but none of that helps unless we're actually taking care of the things that we put in our body. So food is so important. Being able to get the right nutrients and be able to take care of ourselves that way is really a very important piece of that puzzle when we're treating anything and staying healthy and improving our longevity of life, right? So we all know that we need to eat well also. We told Chef Nathan earlier that we're not the pharmacists that really like to think about, taking medications. Oftentimes we're the pharmacists or the profession that actually gets people off of medications by changing their lifestyle, by changing their diet, and increasing their exercise. So, with that being said, what's next?
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage, Chef Nathan Lyon.
Yeah! Amazing! Well, this is exciting. I'm not part of the FDA, so we're all family, right? So we can speak freely right now, okay? So, driving down here from Austin yesterday, it just dawned on me I have never been in a room filled with compound pharmacists. I thought that was the beginning of a very funny joke. Thank you very much. I might keep that for later. I don't know what the end of the joke is. 450 compound pharmacists and a celebrity chef walks into a bar. I don't know what the end of that is. But I have a feeling that not a lot of people have the opportunity, as you're giving me today, to be up here in front of you and share what I know with you. So thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of this. The thing about compound pharmacists, what you do is you create specialized pharmaceuticals and medicines, which makes you healers. You heal people, right? And as a chef that prepares healthy, delicious meals, I like to say that I dabble in the healing myself. So we're the same people. We're on the same team. We're not the FDA, but we're on the same team, right? Which is really exciting. But the thing about that is that when you look at the history of where medicine and food, how they were always sort of joined together until recently. We were the same person, historically speaking. So food was looked at as medicine. We had the same occupation. I think the best way to explain this better is to go way back in time and kind of see where this started. Food is medicine, okay? So let's start way over. Way back machine, 2700 BC in China, okay? The way they approached food was that to stay healthy or to stave off illness, the physicians would prescribe specific foods. In addition, they would also say, don't eat these foods. Now, was it just food? It wasn't. There was also herbs, meditation, there was acupuncture. It was a very holistic way of approaching wellness. And how do I know how important food was back in the day? Well, back in the day, the highest ranking doctor in ancient Chinese medicine was known as the diet doctor. So that's pretty important, right? We don't exactly do that right now, but we're slowly moving back to it. So let's go from 2700 BC to 1000 BC in India. Ayurvedic medicine. Ayurveda is Sanskrit for the knowledge of life and longevity. It is a beautiful, multi-tiered, complex approach to wellness. To even attempt to explain it would be doing it a disservice. But understand that there is encouragement in balance. It's all about balance in Ayurveda. So if you are out of balance, that is when illness and sickness sets in. So much like in China, Ayurvedic physician would prescribe specific diets to their patients, in addition to, yes, this yoga, massage, meditation, but it wasn't just about food, but food played an extremely important role because foods possessed certain qualities. So if you were feeling sad, if you were angry, you would be prescribed certain foods. That is the power of food, okay, back then. How do I know it was important back then? Well, there was a saying in ancient text of Ayurveda that says, food is medicine when consumed properly. That is deep. Food is medicine when consumed properly. Food is medicine. Does that remind you of anything? It reminds you of, probably over here somewhere, which is 2,000 years ago, the father of modern medicine, Hippocrates. Let food be thy medicine, and medicine be thy food, right? But back in the day, Hippocrates' day, there was something known as the four humors. Everybody heard of the four humors? The four liquids. There was blood, phlegm. I'd never get used to that word, phlegm. It's like moist. Blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile, okay? Same thing, where it wasn't just about if you had a fever or if you had the chills, it was about your mood. There was a physiological and psychological approach to balancing things out 2,000 years ago in ancient Greece. So how would they balance people back out? How would they bring them back from poor health or keep them in good health? They did it with food. Food was major, major, major back in those days, okay? So the thing about the way they approach food is that sometimes they swung and missed. Like if a person had tuberculosis, they would give them, cinnamon sticks and 9-day-old female piglets, and they'd say, have at it, this will heal you. Sometimes it didn't, but sometimes it worked, which was really exciting from where I'm standing. For example, has anyone ever had stinging nettles? Anyone ever had that? A few of you? It's pretty good. If you see it at the farmer's market or go to a restaurant and you see stinging nettles, it'll either be in a soup, a pesto perhaps, inside a ravioli. If you see it, go for it. It's a little green tasting, earthy, maybe a little nutty. It's quite nice. But the thing about stinging nettles, it is very high in vitamin C. So if you were suffering from scurvy or vitamin deficiency anemia, they would serve you or prescribe to you, among other things, stinging nettles. How cool is that, right? They didn't know squat about the human body at that point. They really didn't, because they relied mostly upon observations. So let's role play for a bit, shall we? I will be your ancient Greek medical practitioner person, and through detailed observation, which is pretty much all they did, I'm looking. You guys look okay. This gentleman, yeah, you, babe. Totally kidding. I would say I've assessed you all as being a little on the hot and dry side, okay? Which happens to land you right in the middle of yellow bile. Your bodies are producing too much yellow bile, people. So as your practitioner, chef, I am going to prescribe your lunch today to manifest more of the opposite, to balance you out, cold and wet, which is more phlegm, bleh. Okay? So your lunch today is going to be camel brains, hard apples, and mushrooms. You will be right as rain. You're welcome. Okay? I'm the physician. I'm the doctor chefy guy. This is what they did back in the day. So we go from 2,000 years ago, which I guess is about here, and let's come over here to the early Renaissance. That's when exciting stuff starts to happen. With science, with art, food, architecture, really amazing stuff starts to happen. From a contrast from Hippocrates' day, which was just detailed observation, now we had the scientific method, right? Which was experiment, observation, conclusion. But more importantly than that, the church in Italy said, it is no longer taboo. It is no longer forbidden to perform autopsies. That is when stuff starts to happen. Because back in Hippocrates' day, they thought you eat food, it goes into your liver. How would you know otherwise? Now, autopsies are happening left and right, learning so much. And the artists of that time are like, yes, this is our jam. We can draw, we can sculpt, we can paint in 3 dimensions. So artists are sitting in on anatomical dissections. So when you see some art from back in the day, Leonardo da Vinci, his drawings were incredible. They weren't actually discovered until 300 years later, but still, when you look at them, they're amazing. Artists at the time, their knowledge of anatomy far surpassed what was being taught in universities of that time. That is how amazing that time was. But when you look at the advancements in anatomy, you also have with it the pairing of advanced optics, which lead to microscopes later down the line. And the reason I bring that up is because they didn't know that bacteria, viruses were causing illnesses at the time, but at least they knew that it wasn't because the gods were mad at them, right? And at least they knew it wasn't because their humors and liquids and phlegm were out of balance. It was at this time in the early Renaissance when medicine and food kind of splintered off, right? So the last jump, we're going to jump here. We're going to jump to America. And we're going to jump to a time that's just before the end of World War II. So what's happening at that time? A full third of the produce being grown and produced in this country is because of victory gardens. So Americans are really in touch with what a season is, fresh food, okay? And the majority of those victory gardens were actually happening in the cities and not in the country. Because all the GIs were off at war, women just filled all those spots. It was beautiful. There's a lot of women working at that time. But which meant less people were cooking at home. We had convenience foods, like the birth of convenience foods. They weren't bad back then. It was canned foods. That's fine. Flash frozen technologies were becoming better and better. That's great news. But it sets the stage, right? It sets the stage because less people are cooking, more convenience foods. We'll just take a couple steps to the 1960s. That is when fast food starts catering to the little kids. It's like, here's a toy, first one's free. So kids now associate fast food with, like, I don't know, hollow happiness. I don't know what that is. With a toy. And all of this sets the perfect stage for when it hits the fan, in my opinion. It hits the fan in 1980. That is when the US dietary guidelines are released for the very first time. What do they say? The American Heart Association says saturated fat is causing, one of the main causes, of heart disease. It's been since debunked, but it's causing heart disease. So stop eating this saturated fat stuff and keep your total fat down to under 30%. That's what they're saying. But you got to eat something, right? What do we eat? We eat up to 50% of our daily calories from carbohydrates. A lot of that isn't like fresh fruits and vegetables and grains. It's simple sugars, like high fructose corn syrup. That's big, 1980s. So when you eat a lot of simple sugars, pancreas releases insulin. Insulin's up. It facilitates fat storage. It also encourages inflammation throughout the entire body. It is what chefs call a very, very dark time. Because the food, again, it's a chef term, is crap in the 1980s. It's just, chef term. You can use whatever you want. It was horrible. And I'm looking out and I'm like, yeah, I guess we were all alive in the 80s. Thank God. Adults. Because you go to a restaurant, and what do you order? You're like, of course, it's a salad. It's 1980s. There's jazzercise. There's spandex. There's stuff's happening, right? It's insanity. So you go and you order a salad. Of course you do. And I'll take my salad with, yes, I'll take some fat-free cheese with some fat-free dressing. Delicious. I'm stuffed, but I'm starving. There's nothing satiating in this entire salad. Who here, and I'm bold like this, I'm the youngest of 3 boys, I can admit this, who here would crush an entire sleeve of fat-free cookies by themselves in public? Thank you, sir. I gave him a ding in the early, but he came back strong. Fat-free cookies, there's no fat, it's health food, right? Thank you, sir. Children's cereals have always been very sugar-laden. 20 pounds of sugar. How much fat's in sugar? 20 pounds, 50 pounds? Zero. Zero fat. Fat, don't eat the fat. Okay? So that's 1980s. A little bit further on in the 80s, talking about a little bit about marketing. Don't sizzle fat. Sizzle lean. She gets something. But that's how deep, it goes deep, like a baby seal. Deep. Okay? Let's creep up to the 1990s, and we find something that is not produced by Mother Nature, who, by the way, will never put something in front of you where some of it's healthy and the other part's trying to kill you. Only humans do that. We do that to us. Does anyone remember Olean? Oh, don't sizzle fat, sizzle lean. Olean. I can eat a whole bag of chips and poop nutrients and blood. And it's great. There's gonna be some out there for you for lunch. The whole bag, I can eat the whole thing. Right? Partially hydrogenated oils. These are things that we've created. The human body has never, ever eaten these things. We have to figure out the things that we make, whether it's gonna kill us later down the line. You can only eat 1 bag, keep it to 1 bag, or walk with a toilet paper roll for the rest of your life. It was dark. It was dark times for all of us. We were having more sedentary lifestyles. Our portion sizes, we're known worldwide for our portion sizes. They were getting bigger and bigger and bigger, right? We were eating, and still are eating, calorically dense, nutritionally void foods. 24 hours a day, they're available to us, 7 days a week. And that's not exactly a very good thing. What ended up happening in a very short period of time is we went from, to the dawn of humanity, let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food, all the way up to this little blip of time. Now we're at, here's your medicine because your food is making you sick. I didn't think that was a funny moment, but I guess in a weird way, I guess it's kind of funny. It's very interesting, right? So, when you look at the landscape of what we see in social media all the time, it's a very confusing dietary landscape. Coffee. Is it good for us? Is it bad for us? Is 4 cups of coffee better for us? I hope so. Who likes coffee? I love Hulkmania. Love coffee. As a chef, I am a card-carrying chef. If you don't drink coffee, they take your chef card. That is how much chefs love coffee. What about red wine? Is red wine good for us or bad for us? It's a trick question. Of course it's good for us. Because 5 o'clock, cocktail hour is rolling around, see you at the bar, boo, 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 boo. Right? Wine, of course, is good for us. Total trick question. What's a superfood? Who marketed that? So should I be eating goji berries or blueberries or acai berries? I'm like in the store being like, what's the healthiest? I just want to be healthy. It's a little bit crazy. Cholesterol, don't even get me started. I haven't checked my Twitter feed. I don't even know it's good for me. By 12 o'clock, maybe it's bad for me again. I just don't know. On top of that, we are obsessed. We are crazy obsessed over diets. We are. There are a lot of wackadoodle diets out there. Not just to lose weight, but to also try to figure out what is the healthiest way that we can eat and feed our families, okay? A lot of diets. So let's try something else. This will be a show of hands of anyone has personally or known someone else who has tried one of these diets. This will be fun. Most popular diet right now, ketosis, the keto diet. Great. Atkins diet, paleo, Whole30. Grapefruit diet. It's better, it's not called like the sour lemon diet. So grapefruit diet, I would do that. Cabbage soup diet. Oldie but a goodie. I love cabbage soup, I could do that one. South Beach diet. That's good. Zone, the Zone. It's going back in the 80s. I'm gonna stop right here. The Zone diet, I totally gravitated to in my younger days because I walked in the store, probably 7-Eleven, Arlington, Virginia, and I was like, the Zone, that's a colorful looking double chocolate, triple nut cluster caramel. I am on a diet. That's my kind of diet. Caramel and chocolate and nuts, that's health food. What about the tapeworm diet? Nobody, that's surprising, interesting. Sleeping Beauty diet, that's real. That was real. People were sedated, so they didn't eat, they just slept away. No, this is absolutely serious. You can do your thing, like you can look it up, for real. What about the cotton ball diet? You guys have a lot of cotton balls in your offices. Eat up to 5 cotton balls with every meal, and it'll keep you feeling full. Now, the problem with that is that you end up with GI tract obstructions, right? That's not surprising. So that diet, well, again, you really have to weigh your odds and whether you feel lucky that day. And the last diet, it seems appropriate because good old Tommy Lasorda of the LA Dodgers was pumping this diet. Does anyone remember that one? Slim Fast, the Slim Fast diet. You can actually say it with me. A delicious breakfast for breakfast, the shake, another one for lunch, and a sensible dinner. Tommy, why did you lie to our faces? So, there's a lot of diets out there. It should be pretty obvious, even before I got up here, that there's no one true diet. There's no one magical answer for everybody, right? When you look around the world, there are certain cultures that thrive on really high-fat diets. Low carb, middle protein. There's another culture that does super well on high protein, low fat, medium carbs. One thing does not work for everybody. But there is one diet that doesn't work for everybody. That is the Western or the American diet. That's a big flag, by the way. Yeah! That's ours. That's the American diet. American diet. That, thank you. I didn't think that would go over very well. So that's the American diet. The thing about food, as a chef and people who eat, we all do it every day, is that cheap is expensive. You either pay for it on the front end or you pay for it on the back end. Right now, processed, highly processed foods have never been less expensive, ever, 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 ever. That's cheap. Then you come to the other side where we are now with heart disease, obesity, high blood pressure, diabetes. That is expensive, right? That is expensive, and we're all feeling it right now. So I think we need to change the conversation from diet back to, I don't even know where I started from, maybe China was over here, back to food. What do I mean by that? We're so focused on nutrients. Like, what gives us the most nutrients? You cannot compare the saturated fat, which is in a whole food like steak, which isn't a lot at all, with the saturated fat that's found in a dozen donuts. It's not the same food. Cookies, candy, they're saturated fat. This is saturated fat, so I'm keeping my saturated fat. It's not the same thing. Think about sugars. When you look and see how much sugar's in something, you cannot compare the sugar content in 4.5 cups of blueberries with the sugar found in, which happens to be 1/3 cup refined white sugar, in a venti pumpkin spice seasonal latte. Yeah! I mean, you could. That's what we do every day. For those of you that love the latte, I get it. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to ruin your latte. I don't want people to be like, oh, they see me drinking my pumpkin spice latte. I don't want to ruin it for you, but just know that you look at the sugar, it's a different sugar, okay? We need to change that dialogue. So people ask me, and they actually do, believe it or not. I'm not up here just being like, people ask me, they do. They say, so I want to get healthier, sort of, where do I begin? And I share something that I have to say is my philosophy or my mantra. And it's something that I first learned at the age of 5, gardening with my grandfather in his little garden back in Arlington, Virginia. It's something I learned again upon harvest time when I would learn to cook and can and freeze vegetables with my grandmother. I learned it again earning a health science degree in James Madison University. I learned it again working with farmers in Southern California for over a decade. I learned it again in culinary school. It's 4 words, and that's great food starts fresh. Okay? You've never heard great food starts highly processed and think something really good is going to happen from that. It's something that I would say after every episode, 3 years of my own cooking show on Discovery Health and Fit TV called A Lyon in the Kitchen. I would say those 4 words after every single show. I have built my entire career off of this philosophy, right? But what does that mean exactly? It sounds great. What does it mean? Great food starts fresh. It means before you even get to the food, just stay back from the food, you have to jump over hurdles. And the hurdles is called marketing. Sizzle fast, sizzle lean, that's marketing, right? So the marketing is, if you see marketing, mostly in the form of commercials, for a food, chances are it's not very good for you. Really let that sink in, percolate. How many people, show of hands, have ever seen a commercial for their local farmer's market? Wow! So many. Not a one. How many people, show of hands, have ever seen a commercial for a small mom and pop company called Coca-Cola? Pepsi, McDonald's, KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken, like every type of food. I mean, it doesn't matter what it is. You just think, oh, I literally am bombarded with billboards and commercials, and you're flipping through a magazine, and it's mostly, there are exceptions, mostly food that's not very good for you. It's the cheap is expensive approach, okay? Farmers markets, they can't afford to do a television commercial. So that's why I like to shop and work with farmers. It also means seasonality. I'd mentioned farmers markets. So when you buy food that's in season, and I consider North America a season, the food is fresher, so it tastes better. That's what I like. It has more nutrition, just happens to be there, and it costs the least. It is a hat trick. Hockey reference, fine. So it's 3 things in one, which is great. And you're supporting local farmers and keeping that land available. The process of shopping for food can be confusing as well because there's so much stuff. So you walk into the grocery store, you finally get to the food, and there's a reason why most grocery stores are laid out the exact same way, regardless of where you go. So you grab your cart, and you walk along, and you're like, okay, well, here are all the fruits and vegetables. You guys on this first tier are all the fruits and vegetables. It's not a joke there. Fruits and vegetables, and you come around the side, and you have like fish, and maybe in the back side is the like the dairy and the eggs. And you keep coming around to this side of the grocery store, and this is where all the grains are. It's called perimeter shopping. So you stay to the perimeter, and you're going to be fine. That's where you'll find things with 1 or 2 maybe ingredients. That's real food. There's a caveat, however, there always is. Just that little area right here, which is frozen vegetables, super convenient, really nutritious, and then also like canned vegetables like tomatoes, right? There's beans, legumes, things like that. So that is the exception. And then toothpaste, which always seems to be over here about this high on the left-hand side, about there. There, okay? So that is how you shop. That is how I suggest you shop. Everything else is, you see people looking, they're like just reading. You want to watch your salt? I mean, how much salt is in a banana? Not a lot of added salt, that's for sure, okay? Pre-chopped vegetables. Listen, now more than ever, it's so easy. It hasn't been easier to eat and prepare food that's healthy. Because you go to the grocery store, most of the vegetables are pre-chopped. You have apps in your phones right now where we could all order our groceries and just pick them up or have them delivered on the way home, okay? You don't need to call up your spouse at 5 o'clock and be like, hey, honey, how's your day? It was great. What do you want for dinner? I don't know. What do you want for dinner? You're grown-ass people. I don't know. What do you want for dinner? I don't know. What do you want for dinner? I don't know. I'll go to the store. Great. I went yesterday. Makes sense. Good. No parking spots. I hate you. Hey, I thought that guy's from the FDA. I hope you're not here. Anyway. Yeah. So what's the call to action? That's my best joke ever, the FDA. And I didn't even make it up. So what's the call to action? What do you do? How do you put this in practice? This is what I ask of people. It's not a lot. I ask that they start with 3 meals, not a day, in a week. If you can prepare at home 3 meals a week, that is a great, sustainable starting point. 3 meals, right? That can be done for the rest of your life, 3 meals. You can up it if you want. It's great. What do I bring to this dance? What am I bringing? I am bringing recipes that are broken down numerically, by numbers. When I do recipe, I want to make sure everyone can follow it. We learn to paint by numbers, right? Now we can count, we can cook by numbers. For example, step 1, preheat the oven to 350 degrees. Boom! I am cooking like an Emmy-nominated chef. It's true. It's absolutely true. There's nothing different between the two of us, except perhaps the quality of the ingredients. You have just as much access to the quality of ingredients that I have access to, okay? So I also bring how to pick and store all seasonal produce. Why is it that my strawberries last up to 10 days and yours are rotten on day 2? I didn't learn that in culinary school. I didn't learn that in undergrad. I learned that working with farmers for 10 years. Okay? If you have a local farmer's market, it's a free education. I will also bring to this relationship what I feel that you should have in your kitchen. And it's not a lot. But there are things that I think you need in your kitchen to make the cooking experience more easeful. Okay? That's what I bring. And I continue this conversation. 1, I'm the youngest of 3 boys, and I love attention, and I can't stop talking. I continue this conversation on social media, answering any of your questions personally. That is how much passion I feel for people being healthy. They're called diet-related illnesses for a reason. Unless there's a genetic predisposition, most of these illnesses that we're experiencing as a country and as a world are diet-related. You don't have to have them, right? But convenience is expensive. It comes at a cost. I think that the foods that we should be eating are the foods that our great, and so on, grandparents ate, okay? Not highly processed foods that we are here today. So in order to move forward, we need to look back to a time when food was preventative medicine and people ate really good food, right? Now I will prove it to you. I will do this little old recipe here from my cookbook using ingredients that are in season right now. I'm using apples, not hard apples like the camel brains you guys will be served later on, but fennel and apples If you've ever been to a place, an area that grows apples, you know, I don't have to tell you, there are hundreds of different apples. And actually, there are 3,000 apples around the world. You go to the grocery store and you probably see 4, 5. It was at the grocery store where I first learned the word mealy. And it was a red, delicious apple. How delicious is a red delicious? It's not. It's great. It's just like, it feels so bad just to say it's delicious and be like, here, you don't even have to have teeth to eat this. Trick or treat. There you go. Sucker. Apple. So, so this recipe is from my cookbook. It's in the season of autumn. Because apples are the freshest right now. They are. If you're eating apples in the summertime, they're from last year. So big corporations can store apples for up to a year. That doesn't make it good or bad. It's just a very interesting fact. They taste the best right now. They're really crunchy. They're wonderful. We also have fennel. Is anyone familiar with fennel? Anybody at all? So I'm going to have you come up and cook this dish. No, I'm totally kidding. Wouldn't that be weird? Be like this behind him. So fennel has a very anisey, this is another Halloween joke, I guess, very anisey flavor to it, but it has the texture of celery. So it's really crisp, it's very fresh, it's lovely. So we'll start with apples and fennels. But my cookbook isn't just about like just shoving vegetables and fruit down your gullet. I have desserts in every single season. Why not have desserts? Because if you make a dessert, it's going to be exponentially better for you than something you're going to get at a 7-Eleven or at a grocery store, because you know what the ingredients are that go in there. In fact, I love desserts so much, I have 5 seasons in my cookbook. That's absolutely true. Does anybody know what the 5th season is? Chocolate. That's true. You can have chocolate at any time. Chocolate is omnipresent. You cannot kill chocolate. So we have a season you can have any time. It's called chocolate. Okay, so let's get started here. Who likes to cook, by the way? Does anybody like to cook? Does anybody not like to cook and is the dishwasher? Great. I think the hands went further up with the people that didn't like to cook, okay? So yeah, just 3 meals. It's really easy to do, at least to start with. When I told you about the part in my cookbook where I teach people what they need to make cooking more easeful, there's a couple things. Because of my health science degree, I did physiology, I did cadaver lab in undergrad, and it really interests me when people cook that their neck sometimes gets scrunched up and it's just uncomfortable for them. So I usually pull someone up to do this, but given time, I won't. If you're relaxed, screw it. Sir, will you come up here for a second? Would that be all right? Everyone give this gentleman a hand, for God's sakes. It could have been any of you. Meantime, this knife cost me $38. Do I have a $150 knife? I do. I don't like it very much because the handle's too small for my hand. So I have to overcompensate. My hand gets crimpy. So whenever you buy anything for your kitchen, try it on like it's a shoe or a black dress or a suit or an anything. Don't be like, oh, that looks really nice, I'll take it. You have to cook with it. Like the pans that are heavy with the straight handle, it hurts my styloid process. It just hurts. I don't want to cook with it because it's uncomfortable to cook with. Make sure everything you have in your kitchen you're comfortable with. So if you ever see me in a Bed Bath & Beyond or wherever looking like a psychopath, pretending that I'm actually cooking, you'll know why. Because it has to be comfortable, okay? So sir, I'll have you face that direction. It's really weird to turn around. I have a knife, because it's weird. It's totally weird, Halloween. And just put your hands down by your side. Just totally relax. Okay, now I'm gonna put the knife in your hand, but don't move. Do not go to grab the knife or anything. Don't even move an inch, okay? Go for it, hold it. Okay, now, what's your name?
Steve.
Steve, thank you, Steve. So if you look at Steve the way he is, if you look the way he is, the knife is not facing straight out, okay? Why is that important? Because if I have a knife, let's say this is my knife now, and I'm trying to cut something straight, people usually cut like this. right? Because it's perpendicular to the board. This does not look comfortable to me. I don't want to cook a minute like this. But and you look at Steve, the knife is actually at an angle, and then my shoulder can drop down. Now I can get closer to the cutting board. Now I can do this all day. I'm completely relaxed, okay? Move your environment. You guys don't have to compensate. Move your environment. Steve, you are the absolute best. Thank you so much for it. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve. Okay. So far I've done a lot. We've done nothing. I have nothing cut. I've done nothing. Does anyone know what this is? Little mandolin, different mandolin. They're very sharp. You don't have to have a mandolin, but this is an OXO, Bed Bath & Beyond, 20% coupons. They never expire, even though there's a date on them. Keep them. They never expire. It's true. So OXO, I like this one, or any other V one, because it has less resistance when you're cutting, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this bulb of fennel. I'm going to take the bottom off. Can everyone see okay? Oh my God. Are my arms that hairy? Honestly. I had no idea they were that. That's disgusting. Okay, so I'm going to take the very bottom off of this. You can save that for stock if you want. Because I know if we, not picking on Steve because he's the best, but if we all got in this huge van, we went to Steve's house, and we looked in his crisper drawer, there were some flaccid carrots, just like in your crisper drawers, there are onions that are sprouting, right? And there's celery that's like, just throw me away. And we were like, oh, that's gross, throw it away. And we go and get new ones, and then we're like, oh, throw that away. You can just simmer it, guys. Chop it up, put it in a food processor, everything together. Simmer it with some old rotisserie chicken bones. You've got a homemade chicken stock. And it's going to taste exponentially better than anything you can get in the store. And you've already paid for it. It's nutrition, and you're throwing it away. Why? Okay? So here we go. I'm going to cut this portion off as well. Save this for stock. It's delicious, nice and sweet. Now I'm saving these little knobby guys because that's where my hand goes. That's a little chef snack. This is where my hand goes. If I cut it too low, my thumbs and fingers are too close to this razor sharp blade, okay? So what I'll do is just give it a little slissy slicey. There we are. Has anyone worked with a mandolin? I mean, I know you have them, but have you used them? Just, honey, I totally want that. You're like, then I have to clean it. Just keep it in the box. Okay, so that really resonated with a lot of people, didn't it? Yeah, hi, 2 chickens to go, thanks, we're fine. So look at all this. That would take me, the Ginsu master, that would take me, look at that, that's a lot, right? That's one fennel bulb. And you get some pieces that are like this and some pieces that are very tiny. And I like that because when you cut things differently, the way that the food tastes is different also. So like if you're just cutting carrots and you're going glug, 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 and they're always discs, because we all cut them, celery, glug, 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 glug. But try to change it up, like roll it around and get some really funky textures, because then you'll be like, oh, what is this? Oh, it's a carrot. Oh, it's totally different. It's a totally different experience, okay? Cutting things differently. Same thing, apple. I haven't had this out. I'm gonna have to clean it anyway. Let's do an apple. Okay, really gotta be careful. I did really injure a pinky doing this, and it was a little bit crazy because it was during a demonstration to about 100 people, and I think part of my pinky was in there. So we're all, see, no pinky. That is a lot. That's a lot of apple, right? So we have 2 things that are in season. They don't cost very much. That's enough for probably 3 decent size appetizers, okay? What else am I putting in here? Let's put in a little bit of shallot. Shallot is one of these things, it looks like this when you get it at the grocery store, okay? You've all seen that? Shallot, it's great. Sometimes they'll come pre-peeled as well. Went ahead and peel this one just because of time. Shallot's really nice because you can eat it raw and it won't be like so harsh. as, say, a yellow onion would be. So chefs love them. Now, keep your knives nice and sharp. This is the real fancy way of doing it. I guess I want you guys to see this. You've seen this on television multiple times. But there's usually background music. Or if there's hip hop. Okay? So there we go. We have a diced shallot. This goes in. Now, if the shallot is a little bit harsh, if it has an edge to it, like sometimes onions can have, that's when we add a little bit of acidity. Now, the acidity is going to be in lemon juice. It's also going to be in white wine vinegar. So I'll just go ahead and squirt that over the top. This is, I'm not sure what brand this is. This is white wine vinegar. That goes over the top. And lemon. Now, I washed my hands. I didn't shake anybody's hands before I came in. Went to the men's room, washed my hands, came in. And the reason why I say that is because sometimes, like on my show on PBS called Growing a Greener World, it's a gardening show, we've gotten a couple emails saying, Chef Lyon is using his hands. It's because I can't use my feet. I'm just not that talented. Not sure. But I wash my hands, right? So I went to culinary school. You have to really learn to wash your hands. And I actually went to UCLA Extension to become a medical technician. Also, you have to wash your hands as an EMT, right? You have to wash your hands after you garden. So I washed my hands, that goes in, caught the seeds. Why would you use a strainer when you just can do that and you don't have to wash the strainer, okay? So that goes in, lemon juice, white wine vinegar. We also have toasted walnuts. This is good fat, thank goodness. We've cycled from bad fat to good fat, back to good fat. This is a good fat. How should I cut the toasted walnuts? It makes a big difference when it's toasted also because it brings out the essential oils. This can go rancid, okay? Buy a couple, use them, or you can keep them in the fridge in a little Ziploc bag. I don't like to mess up my knife, so I just do this, okay? And that, I don't know who belongs that to, but it's not me. But this is, you can do that. Nothing says you have to chop them. You can just crush them with your hand and have fun, okay? So the walnuts. We have currants for a little bit of sweetness. That's always nice to have. So everything that I prepare, sometimes these recipes literally take me 20, sometimes 30 times to perfect. When is it perfect? It's perfect when it doesn't bother me anymore. Does that make sense? My nemesis when I go out to dinner is spaghetti with red sauce. Like, oh, or whatever music you're listening to in your head. And the pasta's al dente, and oh, these tomatoes are amazing, the acidity is wonderful, and the cheese is great. Next bite, the pasta's still al dente, and the tomato, now I'm bored. I'm not discovering anything new. I'm just bored. I'm just eating now because I'm bored. Halfway through the meal, I'm actually not even hungry, but I'm going to finish eating it. It's kind of like when we go to our planes to fly back or drive back to where we are, we have breakfast, we get to the airport, we're a little bored, I'm going to get a snack. Even though I just had breakfast, I have a little snack. Get in the airplane, serving lunch? Of course I'll take lunch. I haven't done anything, but I'm a little bored, okay? So just sort of be aware of what you're eating. And more times than not, it's because the food isn't entertaining. It's not exciting. Every bite that you take with my food is going to be a little adventure, a little mini vacation for you, okay? So what do we have now? Salt and pepper, very important. I always like using kosher salt. Why kosher salt? Is because it's the same size. For my cookbook, I measured what my pinch is, and it's a 1/4 teaspoon. And when I add it, I don't add it like this. I don't go, bleh. I think he's already said, you don't know the guy I'm talking about. All right, fine, bam. Bam guy. So if I took the salt and went, bam, here's your salad, you'd be like, whoa, that's so salty. So the way I want you to season all your food is from up here. It's not just because it looks way cool. You're like, that dude's totally showing off. But if you look at it, it rains down like a little pyramid. It's all equally seasoned. That's why we do it, okay? Freshly ground black pepper that we ground backstage. If you have a McCormick's pepper container from your great-grandmother as a hand-me-down, don't use it. It doesn't have any more essential oils in it, okay? So I think all the ingredients are in there. The last thing that I add, and you'll see in recipes, it'll say, just before you serve it, then you add the dressing. I already have the acid in there in the form of white wine vinegar and lemon juice. Acid will always bring out sodium naturally found in foods. Let's say you have an avocado. Anybody love avocado? I don't love it as much as coffee. I'm not an animal, for God's sakes. But I love avocado also. So if you have an avocado, it's perfectly ripe, and you cut it, and you swirl it, and pull the pit out, and you add a little salt, and you eat that. And you're like, oh, this is a really delicious, slightly salty avocado. Then you do a squeeze of lime. Something happens, right? The acid cuts through the fat, but the acid brings out the sodium. It makes it a different dimension. So if you're watching your intake of sodium, or your clients are making sure they're watching their intake of sodium, just say, just before you add that little last bit of salt, add in acid. Balsamic vinegar, lemon juice, white wine vinegar, anything like that will make it seem saltier than it actually is, all right? I'm going to save this because I'm a little bit peckish in this little snack. So the olive oil. When you add olive oil to something, mostly with greens, let's do this flat leaf Italian parsley, it will inundate and start to break down the cell structure of lettuces. And that's why they say dress it at the last second. Now, every time I look at flat leaf Italian parsley, it reminds me of its little brother, the curly parsley. And that reminds me of 1980s restaurant Red Lobster. Why? It's because parsley is the only green thing that you ever see in a Red Lobster commercial. The rest of it is just like variations of brown. Right? Just like Mother Nature was like, here, have my bounty of brown. Okay? But flat leaf Italian parsley, it has a lot of really good flavor in it. It's herbaceous. It's not just a garnish. So I like to use a lot of it. Now that's in there, a little bit of extra virgin olive oil. The kinds that I like to use for finishing, I'll use a brand called Lucchini. I like their vinegars also, red wine, white wine, and balsamic vinegars. And for an everyday use, California Olive Ranch, can't beat that. Bang for your buck, it is so great. It's a great deal. Now what do I do? Now it's time to toss it, okay? You can use tongs if you want to, if you hate your salad. Because the tongs, I always see people with tongs, and this is what I see. Just, owe me money, I'm gonna just, it's like, come on, just be gentle on it. For goodness sake, it's gonna feed your family. This is the way I like to dress my salads. This, right? Oh, this is like in India and China, the massage. Yeah. I almost took it there, I didn't. I pulled it back just a little bit. Yeah. Yeah. Okay? So now everything is equally dressed. Nothing is crazy. I'm just letting it just go over my hand like this. Just let it fall, all right? Now, there's one more thing I'm going to add, and that's at the very end, and that is Parmigiano Reggiano. Does anybody like Parmigiano Reggiano? What about Parmesan? The American Parmesan. I don't know where I'm from. I don't know what accent that is, but it's Parmesan. It is not the same thing as Parmigiano Reggiano. That's an Arlington, Virginia accent. The great thing about Parmesan is that, one, it's delicious. If you store it properly in the fridge, it'll practically last forever. But I always advise people to get them in these big blocks, even bigger blocks. Why? Because one, if you get it pre-grated, it's almost like when you get pre-grated carrots and they're all bent, they're all like bendy and dry. Same thing with cheese. Cheese will dry out. And then you can't do this when it's all dry and pre-grated. You can't be like, oh yeah, look at what? Stop it. If you got this, you're like, I struck gold. If you got one that's like, the box grater thing, you're like, well, it's fine. But this is almost a bite, right? It's different. It is a different experience. It's the same thing I was saying before with the carrot. If you cut the carrot in a different way, it is a different experience. Put your pants on, other leg first. It is a different experience. Hold on to something. I've tried it. It is not easy. They say to, but I can't. Creature of habit. We're all creatures of habit. We all eat the same thing all the time. So let's mix it up a little bit. If you eat the same thing, try to prepare it in a different way. And I have a few more minutes here. Last thing. If by the time you serve your one of 3 meals, and you're starving, you haven't tasted your food, okay? If I were cooking for you in your home, possible, and I made a big thing of soup or a salad, I would taste it, but I would have 2 forks or 2 spoons. I would take this one, and I would put it on this one. This one can go back in the salad, and this one goes in my mouth. It's delicious. I mean, it better be delicious. I hope so. I made this recipe a zillion times for my cookbook. Now, it needs a little more olive oil because I want a little more fat in there just to coat it, and a touch more pepper, and then I know we're good to go, okay? This will be served outside today. So once you guys leave, I'm going to roll over. If you guys want some cookbooks, I brought a limited amount because we drove down. I'm happy to sign it to whoever you wish. I don't think you would give a Halloween gift, but Christmas. Happy Halloween! Cook healthy food. Anyway, you never know. Now that's ready. I know it because it's seasoned. I guess you can see that pretty well. I need one of these at home. I don't know why. But now to serve it, you don't futz. I don't advise you futzing a lot with the food, okay? When you put it down, just let the cards fall where they may. And you can finish it like this. So it looks natural. If it looks too futzed over, for some reason it just looks unappealing. It looks unappealing to me, okay? So I guess to recap, food is the answer. It's always been the answer. A Lyon is perfect for Halloween. Oh, you're pooping blood. It can't be real. Oh my God, it looks so real. Just eat the food, guys, okay? Your mantra, great food starts fresh. You'll see me every television show I've ever been on. At least I'm whispering it if I can't legally say it. But that's the answer, okay? So if you tell your clients where to get started, just say, if you see a commercial, don't eat that food. Stay to the perimeter of the grocery store and just enjoy yourselves. Spend money in the front so you don't have to spend it in the back, okay? So now I think I have a couple minutes to take any questions you may have sent in, or if you have any other questions, just shout them out. I have good hearing. Yes, sir.
I'm going to start. I think we're all starving, so thank you. That looks amazing. That is like so good.
Anybody want an apple? No, I'm kidding. Wouldn't that be weird? Oh,
Red
God.
delicious. First question, how do you pick a perfect ripe avocado? And second, how do you get your strawberries to last for 10 days? Those were a couple of questions that I got right away.
Okay, great. So this answer is to compound God. Compounding God. Where is compounding God? I saw him in the back. I was like, compounding God? There was such a person? That's incredible. Oh, there he is right there. I knew you. It's like looking in the mirror. We're both bald men with glasses. Thank you, compounding God. So let's go to the strawberries first because they cost the most money. Any berry, any soft berry like a blackberry or a raspberry or a strawberry, right? The really gentle ones. They come in the little containers. Get them out of those containers immediately. They don't like to be in there. The reason why that happens when they start to break down, they mold very quickly, is there's a lot of sugar in them, and sugar attracts mold. So what you do is you take an old Pyrex container, take a dry paper towel, line the bottom of the container, take out the berries, lay them out so they're not touching, another dry paper towel, and you keep stacking, and then put that in the fridge, close it up. So if it leaches out any moisture, it's not touching the next berry, and the mold doesn't destroy them, okay? My mom, back in whenever we grew up, would always wash them, put them in a bowl, and put them in the fridge. Worst thing you can do with like gentle berries. Because you want to get rid of the moisture, you don't want to add more moisture, because that's where the mold happens. Second question is, how do you pick a ripe avocado? Now, avocados, having worked with farmers in California, avocado farmers cannot pick an avocado until the oil content is high enough so that it will ripen properly, okay? If you get your avocados, say, from Mexico or anywhere else, they don't have to, legally, test them. So if you get an avocado and you squeeze it and you're like, oh, that feels about right, and you cut it open, but it's rubbery inside, that's because it's not a California avocado. So at the very least, you know if it's California, they have to legally test it for oil content so it'll ripen properly. I always like to take my thumb. It's the broadest area out of all my fingers. I guess my thumb. And then, where is this? Where am I? And then just at the neck, just give it a gentle press. Okay, I guess you can press all over it, but the neck is really a great indicator of how soft it is. So if it's already soft, go ahead, if you're not going to use it that day, put it in the fridge, not in a bag, not in nothing. Just put it in the fridge, let it sit there. It'll slow down its metabolism, okay? And if it's not quite ripe, much like it releases ethylene like apples do, a lot of fruits do, and you put it in a brown paper bag, not a plastic bag. You don't want it to suffocate. It still wants to breathe, but the ethylene, the precursor for ripening, will build up, and it will ripen much, much faster, exponentially faster, okay? You guys are so quiet, I could hear a lemon drop. Yeah. There you go. Any more questions?
I've got a whole series of questions, so I'm going to stick to just 2 more.
Yes, please.
Your thoughts on the use of microwave in cooking? We don't keep them in the lab, right? So only for home. And then number 2, GMO versus non-GMO, organic, non-organic.
Great questions. So the microwave question is one that people get a little crazy over. It is the healthiest way of cooking. Another lemon drop on that one. I don't own a microwave, only because I like the visceral process of cooking. I like the Japanese tea ceremony, right? I like the process of cooking before I like touching the food. The thing about their microwave is when vitamins, not minerals, but when vitamins start to break down, the nutritious parts, if you will, not the fiber, by the way, the fiber is the best part. It's the unsung hero that Americans don't really eat very much of. But when you cook something, the longer you cook it, let's say you boil it, the nutrients, the vitamins will go in the water. It breaks down the health benefits. So the longer you cook a vegetable, the less healthy it's going to be. Microwaves are the fastest way that you can cook something. The fastest. So majority of the nutrients in the food will be retained. Second, if you don't like microwaves, that's fine. Second fastest will be steaming. You just want to cook it as fast as possible for the health benefits, okay? So I hope that took care of the first question. Second one is the GMO one against the...
GMO, or organic, non-organic.
So, you know, the thing about GMOs have been around for a really long time. It's already too late, I'm sorry. It's too late. If 100 years from now we're always like, where'd that hand come from? It's too late. We're going to be able to scratch our bellies with a third hand. It's too late. You're all eating GMOs right now, okay? There are certain things about GMOs that I think it's kind of cool. Like in Hawaii, the whole papaya crop was going downhill. Bananas, out of the 1,000 types of bananas, we eat the one variety that actually tastes the least interesting. Why? But we do. We do crazy things as human beings, don't we? I'm more concerned about organic or conventional. I like organic if I can afford it. Get it when you can afford it. If it's on sale, grab them up. But it's more than just me. It's that we're on a sphere. When you throw food away, there's no away. It's still with us. So when you have pesticides and fungicides and herbicides and synthetic fertilizers that run into the Mississippi that create these giant dead zones right off where we are right now, it's because it's not organic. I'm not saying that organic doesn't have runoff. I'm just saying it has less impact to the environment. So when studies show the difference between farms that use synthetic fertilizers and organic fertilizers, they both, if you use too much of anything, it's going to run off. Okay, that's destructive. But the organic ones encourage like pollinators and butterflies and nature, you know, that type of thing, rather than when you go to the farms of people that have synthetic stuff and you look between their trees and bushes, it's nothing. It's just brown. Organic ones, there's just a bounty of nature everywhere. And I want the latter. I want my actions to help this global phenomenon we call humanity rather than hinder it in any way. Do I buy conventional? Yeah, of course I do. If I can't find organic or I haven't got paid that week. But yeah, I mean, do what you can, you know? Great questions, though. Any more questions?
There was a question about rotisserie chicken in Costco, but I think I can
No,
off
yeah,
on that
yeah.
one. I think
I'm no hater. I'm no hater. It's good, but save the bones, right? You finish the chicken, put them in a zippy bag, and put them in the freezer, and when you take your flaccid, you can use that word, you can do it. You got the flaccid carrots, we all got them. I guarantee, $5 you will giggle when you open up and you touch your celery and you're like, it is flaccid. Chop them up, throw them in with the old bones, and you've got chicken stock. Okay, guys? I'll continue answering questions and signing books over there, but I thank you so much for your time. You've been an amazing audience. Thanks for having me.